Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Itachi took Kid Naruto and left Konoha, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. Leaving the echoes of his parents' dying screams behind in his old house, Itachi stalked noiselessly through the night, smoky shadows molding and clinging to him in both the figurative and literal sense. He jumped, as silently as a cat, onto a nearby roof and hopped to the next one in a single leap, landing in a crouch, his red eyes gleaming dimly in the faint wavering moonlight. The village of Konoha was deserted at this time of night. The shops were empty, the streets deserted. Even the stray shinobi, patrolling or perhaps just returning from a mission, wouldn't be seen not at this time of time. Of course, light would soon come, creeping stealthily around corners, slinking slyly up doors, filtering through besotted windows perhaps. Dawn would come even quicker today, heralded by the screaming of his younger brother as he woke from the dot. Itachi hopped down onto the metal grill of a particular apartment and carefully slipped through the cracked window, left open, as a relief from the balmy night. Slowly, he pushed aside the coarse curtains, billowing through them like a vengeful wraith. Face twisting in disgust, Itachi warily stepped over several empty ramen cups and avoided all the dirty clothing draped carelessly over dark lumps of furniture and tossed next to the laundry bin, as if someone had been too lazy to throw the clothes in properly. Itachi strode through the kitchen, his footsteps not even a whisper in the dead weight of the apartment. He ignored the kitchen, with its peeling wallpaper and water-stained sink overflowing with dirty dishes, and entered the side of the apartment, obviously deemed the bedroom. Lying on a lopsided, wrinkled futon was a small boy around Sasuke's age. He was entangled in light sheets so that only his solemn, whisker-marked face and a tuft of spiky blonde hair, highlighted silver by the beams of moonlight, could be seen. Silently, Itachi regarded the little boy sleeping innocently in his bed. What he was about to do was atrocious, horrible, unthinkable. It would mean changing a small child's life forever, and it would mean taking him away from everything that he knew. It would mean putting the life of a very young boy in grave danger for many, many years. But Itachi still had the dark red blood of his parents on his clothes and the horrified, rasping screams of his younger brother in his ears. He had already committed patricide, the lowest, most heinous of all crimes. How much further could he sink? Moving quickly, Itachi scooped up the little boy, sheets and all, and ran. He didn't stop, not even bothering to look back at the place he had called home for so many years, as he sped away, not daring to jostle the bundle in his arms. He ran until the gray sun was just beginning to peek over the faraway mountaintops, shining subdued light over the land. Here, he was far away from even the outer reaches of Konoha. He wouldn't be safe, though, not until he had left Fire Country completely. Not until he had reached those mountains in the distance. For now though, he and the boy would be protected for at least another hour. An hour of sunlight before the running bean once again. The hunter nin wouldn't start looking until Sasuke had recovered his wits enough to tell the third who had killed his entire clan in one night. Then they would have to order the strike team. All of this would take time Itachi was willing to spare. Slowly Itachi laid the small child on the soft green grass, examining his surroundings. He was in a forest, standing in an oblong clove created by the encircling trees and bushes. The air was sweet with the scent of grass and animals. No human scents could be felt on the wind, except for his own and of course the boy's, which smelled distinctly foxy anyway. Satisfied, Itachi turned back towards the boy on the ground and gently shook him awake. "Naruto," he whispered, "Naruto, wake up." Yawning, Naruto stretched and blurrily opened his bright cerulean eyes in confusion. He was disorientated by the sudden change in scenery, as well as the unknown person standing before him. "Who are you?" he asked sleepily. "I'm a friend. My name is Itachi." Itachi answered, spinning his web carefully. Naruto had to believe him, had to trust no one except him. "You were in danger at your home, so I took you from there to save your life." Naruto's impossibly blue eyes widened farther. "Why would someone want to hurt me?" he whimpered. "There are bad people out there, Naruto." Itachi answered evasively, "I want to help you." Naruto shifted suspiciously in his blankets. Adults had never wanted to help him before. "When can I go home?" he questioned brashly. "You can't." Itachi stated firmly, hoping to end the conversation now. "It's too dangerous for you to return home anytime soon. You'll have to stay with me." Naruto sniffed suddenly, loudly. I can't go home." Unshed tears filled his blue eyes and slowly dripped down his face, flowing in rivulets down his whiskered cheeks. "Why are you crying?" Itachi demanded harshly, "Are you not a shinobi?" "Shinobi don't cry." Naruto stiffened. "I am so shinobi," he yelled, tears forgotten. "I'm going to be Hokage and you're not going to stop me. Right?" Itachi said easily, "I'm going to help you." Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. No one had ever taken that statement as anything other than a falsehood. "I'll train you, better training than you'll receive at the academy, and you'll become a good fighter at least, if you want to be." "Yes." Naruto yelled, his trademark wide smile spreading on his face. I want to be good, the best. His voice lowered confidentially. I want to show them all. Inwardly, Itachi breathed a sigh of relief. This wasn't half as hard as he thought it would be. You will. He promised. Then he stood up, searching the sky. The hunter nin were approaching. They had gotten together as a team even faster than he had expected. Idly he wondered who was on it. Kakashi. Would he come for Yandama's legacy to pay tribute to his fallen mentor? Or maybe. Itachi shook himself mentally from his thoughts and held out his hand towards Naruto. We have to leave. He stated calmly. The assassins are getting closer and I might not be able to protect you from 10 or 11 of them. Biting his lip, Naruto's face lost its easy smile as he contemplated the hand in front of him. Itachi quivered with tension internally, strung as tight as one of his tripwires. If Naruto didn't come by will, then he'd have to take the boy by force, and it would take Naruto a long time to learn to trust him again. Naruto, he had noticed, trusted implicitly without reason, but once that trust was foiled, he would never truly trust that person again. Okay. Naruto said decisively, deciding his entire future in a minute with the air of a child who really has no idea what they're saying yes to. Naruto grasped Itachi's hand in one of his small tanned ones and gasped as Itachi abruptly pulled him up, the white sheets falling from him, leaving him in a brown shirt and blue shorts. It's time to leave. Itachi scooped Naruto up in one move and held him tightly against his shoulder as he began to run, picking up speed. Wind whipped against the pair and Itachi saw Naruto lay his head against his shoulder and close his eyes tightly. Grimly, Itachi sped up. Itachi Nai-san, Naruto called, the words being ripped out of his mouth as he said them. Itachi Nai-san, Ano-sa, where are we going? Itachi Nai-san, are we there yet? Naruto asked yet again. This time Itachi let a sliver of frustration flit across his stoic face. What an irritating boy, absolutely nothing like Sasuke. Loud when he was quiet, hyper when he was calm, annoying when he was agreeable. It was Itachi Nai-san. Naruto whined. Itachi finally stopped, jerking Naruto to a stop beside him. What is it, Naruto? Itachi asked, a hint of anger entering his calm voice. I smell something weird. Naruto murmured, hitting up dust with his feet. Stop that. Itachi said automatically, you're worsening fighting conditions. Where is the smell coming from? Naruto sucked in the lip. I dunno. What? Do you mean you don't know? Itachi asked patiently. He couldn't smell anything except themselves in the air, but kitsunes were known for their sharp senses. Naruto's hearing, at least, would be better than his, even untrained. Naruto sniffed the air experimentally and thought it through slowly. I don't know. He enunciated, as if Itachi was the slow one. It feels like it's all around us. Naruto spread his arms wide at the last statement. HN and Itachi pulled Naruto closer to his side and took out two kunai, handing the smaller one to Naruto. Do you know how to use this? He asked. Of course. Naruto yipped, I'm the best in my class, much better than stupid Sasuke. Itachi frowned at the mention of his brother's name. Good, because you're going to have to use it in a couple of minutes. What? Naruto's childish face creased in confusion. Why do I need to use it? He held the kunai with familiarity, but it dangled off his hand like a limp noodle. Itachi sighed, taking the kunai away from Naruto. The way you grip your kunai means everything. Hold out your hand, as if you were about to shake hands with me. Naruto complied, holding out his hand obediently, but instead of shaking his hand, Itachi put the kunai in his hand, wrapping his fingers around it. This way you can throw it with a flick of your wrist, or you can engage someone in hand-to-hand combat without changing your grip. But, Iruka-sensei told me to put the kunai between my index and middle finger when I'm throwing it. Naruto argued, looking suspiciously at his new grip. Yes, that does give you better accuracy, but are you fast enough to switch your grip from throwing to close combat? Naruto tried, his small fingers flicking around the kunai to try and rearrange themselves. Instead, he fumbled the kunai and dropped it to the ground with a dull thud. Oops. Naruto said, frowning. Stay with what I taught you for now, Itachi thought for a second. And tonight, practice switching your fingers on that kunai for 15 minutes. Do that every night until you can apply it in fighting situations. But this kunai is yours, Itachi Nai-chan. Naruto protested. Not anymore. Now it's yours. Itachi answered, eyes snapping up to scan the horizon. Someone was coming. Really? Thanks. Suddenly two kunai sped towards them, and Itachi scooped Naruto up, jumping into the foliage of a nearby tree. Stay here, he hissed, not trusting Naruto to understand sign language, don't move. Timing his jump, Itachi leapt from the tree, kunai in hand, just as their unknown assailant walked into the clearing. Itachi threw his first kunai at the attacker's back and landed a few feet away, another kunai at ready. The attacker deflected the kunai with ease, sending it pinging into a nearby tree, thankfully nowhere near Naruto, Itachi noted. So you are the famous Uchiha Itachi. He said. Itachi didn't allow even a flicker of the disgust he felt for the man's show in his face, even though the man truly was a monstrosity. He had a shark-like face with cold beady eyes and a cruel smile. Over one shoulder was a huge sword wrapped in bandages, and there were two wavy lines with a slash through both of them. A missing ninden. Yes, Itachi allowed his onyx eyes to melt into infamous red. And who are you? I am Kisame, formerly of Mist. He smiled, showing shark teeth. And what do you want? Itachi asked pleasantly enough, even though he and Kisame had started to circle each other warily. Drop your supplies and whatever other goods you have, and I'll let you live. Itachi smirked. Reduced to scrapping leftovers to eat. A great former Mistnin like yourself. Wait until the news gets out that one of the 7 legendary swordsmen has been reduced to banditry. Kisame snarled and launched forward. Itachi parried his kunai to the throat and with a quick thrust hit Kisame twice in the ribs, cracking 3 and once in the stomach. Then he plunged his kunai into Kisame's shoulder, ripping flesh and tendons. Kisame screamed in pain and rage and tore forward, bellowing like a bull. He lifted his sword off the ground and swung it in an underhanded arc. Itachi blocked the swing with his arm, infusing chakra into it to make the sword shatter. Instead, he felt himself losing chakra steadily and wrenched away from the sword. Kisame smirked and took another swing with his sword. My Samehada will destroy you. He yelled, swinging the sword again, this time dangerously near Itachi. Itachi quickly took out another kunai and threw it at Kisame's face, as a distraction, as he prepared a huge fireball. The fireball blasted into him, as the kunai was deflected into another tree. A second later Naruto came tumbling out of it and Itachi felt a stab of fear. He swiftly ran towards a falling Naruto and caught him just before he hit the ground. Hurriedly, he felt Naruto for injuries, but the young boy was grinning wildly. I deflected it, Itachi Nai-chan. I did it. He shouted happily. Shut up. Itachi interrupted harshly, looking behind him. We have to go. Go? Naruto asked, changing a glance at Kisame. Now, Itachi pressed, those men are coming. Naruto's eyes widened. Oh no. We have to go, come on. He yanked Itachi's hand towards a prone Kisame. We have to get him too. We can't leave him for those guys. He's a ninja. Itachi snapped, the closeness of the hunter nin agitating him. He can take care of himself. No, that isn't nice. Not nice at all. Naruto exclaimed, shaking his head. We've got to help him. Please. No. Itachi said shortly. You're not nice then. Naruto said stubbornly, I won't go with you. Fine then. Itachi hissed, completely fed up. Then stay here and get yourself killed. He snapped, taking off and leaving Naruto behind. He had traveled 2 miles before he turned back and sped towards them. Naruto was helping a limping Kisame hobble alongside the road. It was pathetic really, but Itachi bottled up his exasperation and picked Naruto up by his collar and threw Kisame over his shoulder. He ran, hoping that on the off chance, the hunter nin were having a bad day. It was nighttime when they finally stopped, Itachi even chancing a small fire to light up Naruto's glowing face as he pranced around it, studiously practicing switching fingers with a kunai. He kept shooting Itachi deliriously happy looks, as if he had been justified in thinking that Itachi was a good guy all along. Itachi diligently ignored the pleased, self-satisfied grins. He wasn't a good person. A child shouldn't put their trust in him, not when he had killed both of his parents and ruined his younger brother's life. Just trusting him would sully Naruto's carefree existence, but Itachi couldn't tell him that he didn't dare. That would ruin everything. Hey, Itachi looked over at Kisame, the third member of their camp. He had just woken and even now Itachi could tell he was in pain. He would hide it, but he was hurting. You're awake. Itachi stated dispassionately, poking the fire with a stick and sending Naruto dancing away from Kisame as sparks flew towards him. Kisame licked his dry lips. You didn't have to do that. Sure we did. Naruto chirped, going around the other side of Kisame and giving him a cup of their precious water while subtly sticking his tongue out at Itachi. We like you, and we wouldn't have left you to the bad people. He added seriously. Bad people? Kisame croaked confusedly, kid, let me tell you something. Naruto leaned closer, as if receiving a secret from the Hokage himself. We are. Hey. Ow. Naruto shrieked, as Itachi sent another burst of sparks flying towards them with the stick. This time embers fell in Naruto's hair and exposed skin. Itachi Nai-chan. He yelled angrily. Go over there, he ordered, pointing to the far side of the small camp and finish practicing. It's late, you have to go to bed. But tomorrow I'll give you something else to practice as well. Some chakra control exercises, perhaps. Itachi added. Naruto sighed in resignation, only slightly cheered up by the prospect of learning another ninja technique. Night Itachi Nai-chan, night Kisame-san. Grinning, Kisame brushed off the fading embers from Naruto's clothes and pushed him gently towards the other side of the campfire. When he was a suitable distance away, Kisame turned serious. So what happens now? Shall we leave when the kid falls asleep and then you can tell him that I had an accident when I don't show up in the morning? Itachi stiffened. That was not my plan. In fact, I have a proposal for you. You're a strong fighter and sometimes Naruto is a bit much to handle. Help me train him. Train him? Yes. You are a master swordsman, are you not? Itachi asked. Yes, but look, he's a great kid and I owe him for saving my life, but there doesn't seem to be anything too special about. He's the vessel. Itachi stated. That little slip of flesh and bone. He houses the Kyuubi. Kisame hissed. Yes. I took him from Leaf because he'd be great powerful under the right tutelage, but no one there will give it to him. He doesn't even know how to hold a kunai properly. Yes, he'd be great under the right tutelage, but he'd also be completely loyal to the one who taught him, wouldn't he? Kisame insinuated slyly. Itachi looked at him. If you're going to leave, leave now. If not, never mention this to Naruto. He knows nothing about any of this, and I intend to keep it that way. That said, Itachi doused the light and turned over to close his eyes, feigning sleep. A short distance away, Itachi could hear Naruto mumbling softly in his sleep, and Kisame seemed to be shifting deeper into his bedroll. Well, it was decided then. Two killers and an innocent traveling together are ironic. Naruto, come here. Itachi called, stop bothering, Kisame. Kisame looked over at Itachi's dim, firelit shadow. They had traveled the entire day in more or less amiability well, at least neither were trying to kill the other. He's not bothering me. He answered. Yes, he is. Itachi insisted, eyes traveling across their hastily made campsite. And you're going to cut him by accident if he keeps swinging off your arm like that. Are you saying that I can't control a knife? Kisame growled. Actually, glad you want, Itachi Nai-san. Naruto piped up, skipping from Kisame to stand in front of him. Is it special? Can I get something for you? Do you? Naruto, Itachi interrupted. Do you remember when last night I told you that I'd give you another exercise to do on top of your kunai exercises? Itachi waited for an uncertain nod before he continued. Good, sit down. When Naruto had finished scrambling for a piece of earth, Itachi handed him a wood splint. This is usually used to start fires. You will channel your chakra through the wood and make it burn. Mind, I don't want the splint to spontaneously combust in your hand, instead only the tip should burn. I want a controlled flame. You have a month to do this, I expect it to be done in a week. Standing, Itachi pivoted and walked towards the other side of the fire, directly across from Kisame. But, Naruto looked at the wood splint in his hands. Itachi Nai-san. He wailed, aren't you going to show me how? No. But Naruto tried. No. Itachi turned his attention towards Naruto for an instant. Do this for 15 minutes a day too. Then he turned back towards Kisame. Unhappily, Naruto turned back towards the wood splint, frowning at it silently. He turned it over in his hands a few times, as if that would give him an answer. He rapped it against his palm a few times, unaware of two pairs surreptitiously watching him. Then he threw it into the air a couple of times, starting to giggle happily before a warning growl from Itachi made him go back to looking at it tentatively. Finally he brought it up to his mouth and bit down on it, grimacing when the wooden taste hit his tongue. Itachi snorted quietly. That's not very fair. Kisame's whisper floated across to Itachi softly, unheard by Naruto. Itachi examined the piece of wood that Kisame was carving. Yes, it is. This is how he'll learn. Kisame sneered at him. Oh please. There are shinobi who can't do what you're asking the kid to do. I know, but he'll stare at it for a couple of days and then he'll finally ask you what chakra is. Then after a couple more days, he'll ask you how to use chakra. You'll explain this too and soon by osmosis, if nothing else, he'll realize how to manipulate chakra. It might take years, but when he finally accomplishes it, everything else tree climbing, walking on water, and hanging off cliffs that'll all come easy to him. Kisame's eyes widened. So what, you're going to teach him everything this way? You'll be dead before he's strong enough to do anything. Actually, Itachi disagreed, he'll probably be 13 or so. 13? Kisame asked incredulously, you think that you can make him? Kisame pointed at Naruto who was examining the wood splint, as if it was another world phenomenon, a killer in just 6 years. Itachi sighed. Naruto's a quick study. I showed him once how to hold that kunai, and he deflected the next one that came flying at him. I plan to make him read. Read. Itachi repeated, even if you have to threaten all kinds of hell, he's going to read and he's going to enjoy it. But Kisame paused, and then a look of understanding crossed his face. You think that if he understands the theory of techniques, it'll make it easier for him to learn them? Itachi nodded. Naruto's a sensory person. He needs to understand a technique inside and out to try it, and he learns by visual and auditory means. So making him learn from books, tempered with practice. Itachi trailed off. Smart. Kisame finished, very interesting method of teaching, but that's a sword, isn't it? Itachi asked in silence, nodding toward the crude half-finished wood in Kisame's hands. Well, that's why I'm here, aren't I? Kisame smiled bitterly, the master swordsman, me, is the one who's going to be teaching the kid to kill. Your books and techniques are alright, but it's my training that'll get him strong and keep him alive. Kisame's ironic tone turned serious. I mean it, books aren't going to cut it. He has to be prepared for every situation, otherwise those techniques that you're going to teach him won't help. Itachi acquiesced his head. That's your portion of the training. I'm not arrogant, I know that you've been in more fights than I have. You have more to teach him in that area. I take care of teaching him the techniques and you teach him how to use them. So Itachi Nai-san. A yellow blur collided with Itachi and unconsciously, Itachi put a hand around Naruto's waist to stop the enthusiastic boy from bouncing off him and into the fire. It's time to sleep. Naruto chirped. It's nighttime. I've noticed. Itachi said dryly, signaling to Kisame that they'd talk about this later. Lay down and go to sleep. Okay. Immediately, Naruto snuggled down next to Itachi and yawned, closing his eyes peacefully. What are you doing? Itachi hissed, go to your bedroll. Unconcernedly, Naruto snuggled deeper into Itachi's side. But here I'm warm on both sides. Naruto whined, referring to the fire on his left and Itachi on his right. And, Naruto worriedly opened one eye. What if those bad guys come again? What if Itachi sighed and doused the light? We'll be going over those mountains today. Kisame pointed out, lifting Naruto's bedroll onto his back. Can the squirt make it? Of course he can. Itachi said carelessly, if he doesn't then he gets left behind. Naruto gasped. No way you'd leave me behind, Itachi Nai-san. He shouted confidently. Just don't annoy me today. Itachi answered, hefting up his bedroll and starting up the winding path. Naruto wrinkled his nose at Itachi and looped his hand through Kisame's belt so that he could drag Naruto when he got tired. Kisame-san, Naruto whispered, careful not to let Itachi overhear, what's chakra? Kisame smirked. It hadn't taken nearly as long for Naruto to ask, as Itachi had presumed. Chakra is very important. Kisame teased, how can you not want it? Be alert. Itachi suddenly said, people are approaching. Kisame tensed and felt, rather than saw, Naruto put his nose into the air and breathed heavily. It was slightly disconcerting to see such an animalistic action on a human face, but when Naruto spoke, it was with absolute certainty. Itachi Nai-san is right. People are coming from that direction. Naruto pointed his finger straight ahead. West. Kisame corrected automatically, up ahead is west. Oh, Abruptly, a small contingent of 7 men stepped out of the shadows. Leading them was a tall pale man, his hand resting arrogantly on his hip. Itachi sized them up and hopped backwards lightly to land beside Kisame and give them a unifying presence. Who are you? Itachi asked short and to the point, onyx eyes already bleeding into red. We're the Akatsuki. The pale man proclaimed, the men behind him readying their kunai. Itachi just narrowed his eyes, but Kisame gulped and tightened his grip on his sword. A storm was coming. The Akatsuki? Itachi questioned, brow only portraying the slightest frown, what business do you have with us? I have no need for you or the man behind you. The man in charge proclaimed, we're here for the brat. Our leader wants him. Itachi's blood-red eyes narrowed. That's not an option. The leader's face flashed into a quick snarl before smoothing out. Behind Kisame, Naruto shuffled his feet nervously and tightened his grip on Kisame's pants. Kisame-san, he whispered, what are the Akatsuki? He asked, saying the name slowly, as not to mispronounce it. People who have no right being here. Kisame answered defensively, lifting his voice so that it carried over to the 7 fighters who were standing close by. All we want is the kid. We have no reason to fight with you two. Just give him up and leave and we'll do you no harm. The man said again. And I told you that it wasn't going to happen. Naruto isn't going anywhere with you. Itachi hissed as Kisame tensed his grip of his sword. Then, as if on a hidden cue, 3 things happened so fast that Naruto could hardly comprehend them. The Akatsuki leader charged forward, Kisame drew his sword, and Itachi leapt backwards, pushing Naruto back. As Naruto stumbled backwards to fall on his rump, the metal pole of the Akatsuki leader met Kisame's sword with a resounding clang. Wincing, Naruto covered his ears and blinked through the film of dust that had risen in the aftermath of the quick scuffle to see Kisame locked overhead, sword to pole, in a test of strength. Both men pushed their weapons against each other in an effort to topple the other, but they seemed to be evenly matched. The other men crowded around the 2 fighters for an instant, but then turned their cold gaze back towards Naruto, or more specifically, at Itachi who was standing defensively in front of him. One of them started towards the 2 of them as Kisame started to slide backwards. Then, before Naruto could see the end of the impromptu match, Itachi swore softly and grabbed Naruto, plopped him into another tree. Then he swooped back down. Naruto bit his lip and edged towards one of the tall tree's outer branches. The tree was taller than he was used to back home, but the solid bark of the branch gave him the courage to inch along one of the protruding branches. The tree shook a little, as if unused to tree climbers, even one of small stature like Naruto. Gripping the tree nervously, Naruto leaned over the branch and peered through leafy branches in time to see Itachi enveloped by the 6 other members. Itachi whirled out of the middle of the group and, eyes flashing, he bore down on the first of the fighters with a vengeance born half of anger and he absolutely hated to admit this desperation. He leapt towards the fighter with 2 kunai, locking one with the fighter and sending the other along several shuriken towards another fighter. He didn't check to see if his aim was true, instead drawing back his kunai and attacking with several quick strikes that left his assailant with long thin, streaming, red cuts along some vulnerable spots of his body. Diving in one last time, Itachi slashed his kunai against the man's throat, closing his eyes against the blood as it drenched his cloak and hair and effectively blinded the other men whose eyes had been open when the blood had first started spattering. Taking ruthless advantage of the situation, Itachi drove another kunai deep into one man's chest and threw 2 other shuriken at another's with deadly accuracy. The men fell with barely a sound. The remaining 3 men backed up and began to circle him carefully. Itachi smirked inwardly. These men thought him young and mostly inexperienced. They thought they were fighting a boy, but he was a fox and would fight like one. Clever. Deceptive. Victorious. Itachi gathered his chakra and forced it into a ball. It was jittering and hissing, angry at being left unused for so long. The battle had awoken his bloodlust if nothing else. Standing still, Itachi crammed his chakra down one man's throat, forcing it past his convulsing throat muscles and into the lungs. He let it sit there peacefully until it was pumped into the heart. There, Itachi let it explode. The man's eyes widened and a trickle of blood dribbled down his chin. Then he, like all the others, dropped lifelessly to the ground. Laughing quietly, Itachi dropped the rest of the barriers on his chakra, allowing the 2 alive men to feel his power. He grinned viciously. He knew what they felt, the unending well of power, the absence of limitations. It was the same thing he felt whenever he looked at Naruto. "Give up?" he rasped quietly. "Give up and your deaths will not be painful." One of the men laughed. "Even if we die, this won't end. Did you really think that you travel with a monster like him without the help of a formidable ally or without assassins? If we don't kill you, then the next one sent to do so will. Then they'll go after him. Give up." Itachi repeated gently, "Give up or I'll turn you over to Kisame when he's done." Itachi spared a look for Kisame and saw that the leader was cowering under the samahata and was that a whimper. He doesn't appreciate attacks on people he likes. Consider it a personal affront. The 2 men paled. They also must have noticed what Kisame had done to their leader. "There's someone more powerful than us coming." One of them tried. "He's going to kill you. He'll kill both of you, and then you don't want to know what he'll do to that kid of yours. He'll break him. I mean, there are so many things you can do with a pretty young boy like." The 2 men exploded as Itachi pushed pure chakra into their bodies. It didn't have finesse, and it certainly wasn't nice and clean like he had promised them, but after the man had dared insinuate that someone would to a boy Sasuke's age too. The leader in front of Kisame choked, interrupting Itachi's thoughts, and writhed on the ground as the samahata neatly slit his throat. Itachi turned and nodded at Kisame, his chakra relaxing into a normal subdued striking position around his neck. Of course, it leaped up again when he heard Naruto scream. Naruto was scared. He didn't like that being scared. It sent a creepy crawly feeling down his spine to curl in the pit of his stomach. It made slivers of sweat sluice down the heaviness of his hair onto his neck, the prickling sensation making Naruto even more nervous. As the fight below continued, Naruto started shaking and his breaths quickened. His death grip on the branch tightened even more and an odd heat began to build up in his body. Shuddering gasps tore through his body and he became distracted from the fight below by a red filmy haze that crept up the sides of his vision. "No, no, no," Naruto whispered quietly. He could almost feel the heat rising off him, hot tendrils sifting through his hair and melting off his clothes. The red angry and hot was covering his vision completely, but he could still envisage a glittering arc of the sword as it swung upwards and then fell downwards, slinging nearer and nearer towards Itachi's neck. The only person who had ever been nice to him. No. And the heat building up inside him finally found a way to escape. Itachi whipped his head around towards the tree where he had left Naruto and stepped backwards in shock. The entire tree was on fire. Huge flames had erupted from the branch where Naruto had sat. They bloomed into the upper branches and the dry wood near the base of the tree. Naruto screamed again, and Itachi realized that he must be in the center of the inferno getting burned alive. Itachi ran towards the tree, ignoring Kisame's questioning shout. Itachi jumped into the tree, landing more in fire than branch. Seeing Naruto, a small figure obscured by smoke and flames, he tackled the young boy out of the tree and landed on the, thankfully, grass and not fire. Itachi rolled Naruto along with him until all the flames coloring his clothing were put out. Hurriedly, Itachi turned Naruto over and hissed under his breath. The small boy was covered with burns and lesions. His clothes were half melted and starting to stick to his skin. Even his bright blonde hair was burned and he had no idea how to handle this. "Kisame?" Itachi yelled, his voice not the least bit hoarse, and no, he was not worried, but suddenly, Kisame was at his side. Taking one look at Naruto, he swept the boy up in his arms and ran towards the river where they had camped last night. A little shell-shocked, Itachi got up to follow him and chanced to look behind him. Kami, the fire was spreading. By the time Itachi had caught up to Kisame, the shark-faced man had laid Naruto down in the river, carefully keeping his head above the waterline. As Itachi watched, Kisame peeled away the rest of Naruto's clothes, keeping a tight grip on the child when he convulsed from pain. Finally, Kisame had all the clothing off, letting the ruined rags float down the river. He was not upset. Grimly, Kisame pulled Naruto out of the water and laid him on the ground. Wordlessly, Itachi handed Kisame his cloak, which was dipped into the water and then placed over Naruto's shivering form. He's cold. Why the hell is he cold? Itachi asked suddenly. You've never dealt with the medical aspect of a ninja's work, have you? Kisame muttered dryly, he's shivering because he's in shock. The problem is that we need to keep the burns moist until we can get him to a doctor. He'll be fine. Itachi answered frigidly, he doesn't need a doctor. He needs a doctor. He'll die without one, Kisame stated, and I can't let that happen. If he dies then he's weak. I won't have a weak pupil. And I won't let him die to fulfill some twisted fantasy of yours. Kisame snarled and then leaped up, his shark teeth opening, as if to intimidate Itachi into listening to him. Itachi looked at him superiorly, his eyes still a blood red, his cloak still splattered with the drying blood of his enemies, and whatever Kisame saw in that mess of human and monster, and Kami knew what else made him sit back down, slump his shoulders almost imperceptibly, and settle in for the long haul. Aka brat. Itachi muttered. Kisame looked up from the fire at Itachi. It was the first thing the boy had spoken since their semi-argument more than 5 hours ago. Night had well since fallen, and Naruto had stopped shivering a while ago. Kisame wondered if it was already too late to stop Naruto's slipping descent into a coma and then death. His face was patsy white in the light of the fire. In fact, it was completely at odds with the glowing hero worship that had shone in his eyes last night. I asked him to light a match, not start a forest fire. Itachi continued stoically, his eyes reading deep into the fire. Kisame looked at him heavily. The teenager seemed to be speaking to himself on a certain level. His eyes were still Sharingan red, though Kisame had tersely told him hours ago that he could let the drop. He supposed that the bloodline was a comfort for the boy. He'd always be able to see things others couldn't, and that gave him an aspect of control. It was important to maintain an illusion of control when a situation was completely out of control. Suddenly, the two men heard a rustle from the far bushes. Instantly they rose to their feet, moving to stand protectively in front of Naruto's still form. Kisame tensed. He wasn't sure whether they could handle another enemy. It wasn't a question of being unable to beat them back, but rather the crumbling fact that Naruto was so weak, so fragile that jostling him now could kill him. Quiet laughter greeted Kisame and Itachi battle-ready forms. Please, if I were to attack, you wouldn't have heard my approach. What do you want? Itachi asked. Kisame blinked. He could almost see a visual representation of Itachi's chakra. It was straining to get out and rip, tear, and shred. The indistinct animal-like shape had its hackles raised, and Kisame guessed that the faint hissing that was starting to permeate the air was the animal growling. Kisame smirked. Uchiha wasn't as calm as he liked to pretend. As Kisame focused on Itachi's chakra, a tall, slim, white-skinned man came out of the trees, his long black hair oozing off him like poison. My name is Orochimaru, he stated pleasantly, and I have a proposition for you. Kisame sighed, looking down at Naruto. He already knew what this man was going to offer them. Sanctuary, and he already knew that they'd take it. Why? Because it was the only way that Naruto would last the night. And Uchiha Itachi, though he might be a bastard, cold-hearted and insane, if there was one thing that he wasn't, it was stupid. It was dark when Naruto finally woke up. Dark and 2 weeks later. He had woken with a sharp, shuddering gasp, as if reliving his trials in the forest all over again, jolting half upright before weakening and collapsing back on the gurney. Kisame was the first to reach him, lifting him slowly to rest against propped-up pillows and whispering soft platitudes to the small child that would have made Itachi cut out his tongue before repeating. They had arrived in the village, a small fishing town next to the sea, the same night Orochimaru had made his offer. In the end, it hadn't been so much as the promise of a safe haven to teach Naruto, as it had been his whitening face that had made Itachi accept the snake's offer. It wasn't that he was worried for the brat, but the kid wasn't going to die without a kick to the ass for the bloody forest fire he started. When they finally reached the village, Naruto's still form had been handed off to a young medical nin who came from Itachi's old village at Self Leaf. After assuring the two ninjas of his allegiance to Orochimaru, the young man, Kabuto, laid the boy on a small cot, examining his burnt body. Then breathing deeply, he placed his hands over Naruto's heart and sent continuous pumps of chakra into it. The chakra, instead of sinking into his heart as Itachi had expected, tingled up and down his body. As the chakra touched each burned area, the flesh twisted and knitted together, rebuilding the 3 layers of Naruto's skin until the final layer closed it on itself, a milky paleness settling over Naruto's normally ruddy complexion. Itachi Nai-chan. A timid voice broke through Itachi's musings. Are you alright? Itachi glanced over the young child staring hopefully at him on the bed. Even though his breathing was still erratic and his skin had a coolness to it that Itachi didn't expect, he seemed to be on the mend. Fine. He grunted, turning and stalking from the room. Itachi flung open the hospital room door and slammed it shut behind him as he strode from the room. Walking down the rough wooden hallways, Itachi left the hospital, heading out into the rain. As the rain soaked through his clothing and his hair began to cling to his face, Itachi started across the muddy compound towards Orochimaru's office. It was time to uphold the other part of the deal. Itachi entered Orochimaru's office knocking, instead lounging on the doorway until the sallow-faced man waved him in carelessly. I presume Naruto-kun is doing better? Orochimaru asked, looking up from a document. He woke up. Itachi answered. Really? Itachi turned to see Kabuto leaning against the opposite wall. As Itachi watched, the young nin pushed up his wire-rimmed glasses and stood straight. Then perhaps I should pay him a visit. Orochimaru-sama, Uchiha. With 2 deferential nods, Kabuto exited the study. Itachi-kun, why did you come here? Orochimaru asked, drawing Itachi's attention away from the closing door and back towards him. Itachi frowned, the facial change barely perceptible on his grim face. You asked me to come find you when Naruto felt better. Yes, I suppose I did. Itachi shifted slightly, not liking nor understanding the look Orochimaru was giving him. Well, he muttered, his hand slipping towards his shuriken, what do you want? Now, there's no need for that. Orochimaru said, gesturing to Itachi's hand, let's be pleasant. Itachi nodded even though the pale man's sibilant voice was making him itch with the need to hurt someone. I've done you a favor. I saved the life of your little demon. Something I'm sure you're grateful for. Now I want you and your partner to do a favor for me. What favor? Itachi asked warily. Orochimaru could ask for anything from a retrieval mission to the brat himself. Let me start with a little history. Orochimaru put aside his papers and leaned forward, gesturing for Itachi to sit. He did so, sinking into a soft chair, body growing tenser with every passing minute. I, also, am originally from Leaf. But several disputes with the Hokage and other ninjas led me to leave the village. After traveling for many years, I decided to found a village of my own, but there is a reason that new villages aren't springing up all over the place. Ninjas either already belong to a village or aren't trustworthy enough to be in one. You will find that every ninja in this village is legally considered a missing nin. Each has their own reasons for being here, but I assure you that they are the best of the best. Orochimaru smiled at him, and Itachi felt himself being drawn stealthily into a serpent's trap. Being part of this village has its advantages, you see. You get the protection of a village, but none of the limitations. That's why I think this place could be of use to you. The chair creaked as Itachi shifted. How? I will allow you, Kisame, and Naruto to remain here. Do whatever you please with the child. You can train him yourself or allow someone else to. He's of no interest to me yet. In return, you and Kisame will complete certain missions for me. I plan to train Naruto, not be a part of another village where my power is used by another. Itachi hissed. Think of it as honing your skills. You are still young. Surely there is much for you to learn among these skilled fighters. Orochimaru said. I doubt it. Itachi challenged, getting up. I apologize Orochimaru-san, but I do not think I can accept your offer. Itachi was cut off as Orochimaru grabbed his collar and pulled him close. I don't think you understand. He whispered, you are going to stay here and work for me. Do not forget your place, boy. You may be a genius in Leaf, but here you are small, very very small. Orochimaru leaned closer. And I will take pleasure in killing you and the brat if you do one thing I dislike. Itachi snarled, his own chakra rising in response to the hissing coil of chakra melting off Orochimaru. Then he calmed himself. It wouldn't start a fight here. That wasn't what ninjas did. Ninjas attacked with craftiness, strength, and wit. He would kill the man standing in front of him. He would unleash the full power of his Sharingan on this imbecile who dared insult his power, but he could wait. He could patiently wheel away his time, growing stronger and smarter, courtesy to Orochimaru's missions. Then Itachi could pick the moment he wanted his man to die. And then he'd laugh at the horror on his face as he witnessed Itachi's strongest attack. Itachi smiled fiercely. With an offer like that, how can I refuse? Good. Orochimaru smiled back pleasantly, here is your first job. Orochimaru handed Itachi a sheaf of papers. And when you leave, Naruto will stay here just to rid yourself of any temptation of taking the boy and running. Itachi nodded and turned to leave, smirking inside. Idiot man. Did he really think that Itachi had formed an attachment to the brat to the point where he feared to leave him alone? To the point where he would rush to complete the mission just to return to the child? to the point that he'd cringe whenever a threat was tossed in his direction. Ha. If anything, it would be a relief to get away from Naruto's whining, pathetic face for a while. A couple days without the brat would probably help him. If Orochimaru was going to play this angle, then it'd be even easier to get rid of him than Itachi had originally thought. Itachi had no problem with putting Naruto in a little danger to win a fight. After all, Uchiha Itachi didn't form attachments. Section break. Naruto smiled half-heartedly, trying not to wince, as Kisame handed him a glass of water and helped him drink some. "Are you sure I didn't do anything to upset him?" Naruto asked again, letting water dribble down his shirt. He seemed upset. "He was worried about you." Kisame answered patiently, wiping his chin. "No one's upset." "Oh." Naruto played with the hem of his hospital gown, stopping when what felt like fire lanced up his arms. I didn't want to make him worry." His breath hitched suddenly, and Naruto was ashamed to find himself with tears in his eyes. "Ninjas don't cry," Naruto thought fiercely. "If you want to be a ninja, then act like one." "Sorry," he whispered. "No one's blaming you, kid," Kisame said gruffly, nudging his shoulder. "It happens to everyone once in a while. Everyone messes up with their chakra control. Maybe not as spectacularly as you did, but that's why it's so important to learn how to control it." Naruto gave him a watery smile. "You sound like Iruka-sensei. Learn this, learn that. Learning is so boring." Kisame grinned. "Now that I am." Suddenly the door swung open and a tall, white-haired boy entered smiling. "How's my favorite patient doing today?" "You're my doctor?" Naruto asked curiously. "Yes. I'm Kabuto. I was the one who healed you last night," he answered. "Then why do I hurt?" Naruto blurted out as Kisame turned to him anxiously. "How bad is the pain?" "Is perfectly normal, Kisame-san, Naruto-kun. I just restored 3 skin layers at once." Kabuto reassured me. "But even my hair hurts." Naruto complained. Kabuto laughed. "Well, I had to regrow your hair too." Naruto shook his head and was amazed to find long bangs flopping past his eyes. "It's longer," he exclaimed. "Don't worry," Kabuto teased, "you look much cuter. The girls won't be able to keep their hands off you now." Naruto blushed and started to respond when Itachi swung the door, finding Kisame, Naruto, and Kabuto inside the small room. Immediately he pursed his lips. "You need to cut your hair," he muttered. "Itachi-chan." Naruto shouted, pain forgotten, as he launched himself in Itachi's direction. "You're back." Itachi caught the boy around the waist before he could latch onto him and dump Naruto haphazardly back onto the bed. "Here." Itachi placed a large book in Naruto's lap. "I want you to finish reading this by the time I get back." Naruto frowned at the book in his lap and Kisame leaned over to the title. "Chakra control techniques?" he asked. "Yes. Your last attempt was abysmal." Naruto's face fell sharply at Itachi's harsh words. "Hey," Naruto answered, sounded subdued, "I'll try my weight by the time I get back." "Where are you going?" Naruto asked, flinging the book aside. Itachi ignored him and passed a sheaf of papers to Kisame. "Assassination. I'll explain on the way." Kisame nodded and got up. He ruffled Naruto's hair and headed out the door. Itachi turned to follow him when Naruto leaped out of bed again, this time at his feet. "No!" he cried out, wrapping his arms around Itachi's legs. "You can't just leave me here. Let me come with you. Please. Please. I promise I won't be in any trouble. I'll be quiet and I won't eat much and." Naruto gets off. Itachi commanded patiently. "No." Calmly, Itachi reached down and wrestled Naruto off, handing him over to Kabuto. Almost immediately, Naruto began screeching, flailing and biting to get out of Kabuto's hands. Finally, Kisame poked his head back inside, totally exasperated. "Naruto, we're coming back." Naruto stopped screaming, eyes wide with panic. "PR promise." Kisame nodded and looked to Itachi for confirmation. Itachi sighed and looked at the sniveling child. His face was a blotchy mess and he was shivering in Kabuto's arms. Great, now the stupid boy was going to get sick on top of everything else. Itachi sighed again. "Yes, I promise. Thanks for watching my video. See you next time, till then sayonara."